Bright daylight struck my eyes. At first, I didn't pay attention, as I wasn't fully awake yet. On their own, my legs carried me towards the door. Damn, looks like I fell asleep and missed my stop. But there were no doors. I looked around the bus and I realized that it wasn't a good old worn-out Marco Polo. Instead, the bus was the Icarus model. And you. I was frozen in shock. Ow. What? Am I dead? Have I been kidnapped? No, I must be dead. I touched my body wildly, slapped myself in the face a few times, struck the back of the front chair with my forehead. It's clear, I'm either still alive or, being dead, you can still feel the pain. But how could all this happen? Maybe I was asleep for too long and ended up in the bus depot. And then what? Did they put me into another bus? I rushed out and took a look around. Greenery, where I looked, tall grass on the roadside, trees, flowers. Summer? But how? It was winter just a moment ago. I had a terrible headache, as if my head was going to explode. Step by step, I started to recall. A long road running towards the horizon, forest, plains, fields, lakes, and forests again. I think I was sleeping, but how then can I remember all of it? And then, a gap. Some girl leaning over me. She is softly whispering something to my ear. Then a gap again. And then I woke up here. Who is that strange girl? Or was she just a dream? For some reason, thinking about her made me feel better and calmed me down a little. I felt warmth all over, coming from the inside. Could it be her who brought me here? Then I need to find her. And the best way to look for her is to get away from here. I rushed to the left and to the right and stopped hesitating where to go, and finally ran the direction where the bus probably came from. Physical exercise does refresh one's mind. Thoughts become clearer, and it gets a little easier to evaluate the surrounding reality. Not in my case, however. I was sitting on the roadside wheezing and trying to ease my sore throat by gulping hot air. In any case, the rum did its work. The fear withdrew for a while. Maybe I'm really just dreaming? Though, after recalling my self-harm, I immediately rejected the idea. I am neither dreaming nor dead. A narrow road was running through the field and far into the distance. That exact road from my dream. I must be very far away from home. And it's not that I was winter yesterday and it's completely summer now. It's about the environment. Of course, the summer is usually like that, green and hot, but everything is not like in real life. Everything looks like it was taken from the paintings of a Russian landscape artist of the 19th century. The grass is just too lush, the bushes are not like what bushes should be. They are so thick you can't see anything through them, like treetops, honestly. And the trees themselves, the forest was quite far away, but the trees looked as if they had closed the even ranks and were now just waiting for an order to advance into the fields and plains. I caught my breath. I looked at the bus, which was now barely visible. That was a good run. Fear took over me once again. And those power lines, there must be people here. But what does it mean? In fact, that means nothing at all. Even hell can have power lines. Baking and roasting the sinners is too old-fashioned. I must have reached the point of no return, after which you should either lose your mind completely or finally try to understand what is going on. And while I still have the choice, I should rather pick the second option. I slowly headed back to the bus. Of course, it was frightening, but I'm not likely to find an answer in the fields or the woods, and this wretched bucket of screws is the only kind of link that I have with the real world. I should carefully scout the area. A brick wall and its gates crowned with Sauvignac sign, statues of pioneers at the sides, and the road sign nearby showing the bus route number 410. The trip's taking a bit too long today. I smirked. A person may start acting inadequately in extreme situations. Something like is probably happening to me now. This place didn't look abandoned at all. No rust on the gates, no damage to the walls. Sauvignac. What could have a name like that? Judging by the pioneer statues, it could be a kid's summer camp. And this camp seems to be working. Of course, the simplest explanation logically explains nothing at all. The strange girl, the altered bus, summer, the pioneer camp. Thousands of theories went through my mind instantly, from alien abduction to lethargic sleep, from hallucinations to time and space shift. None was worse than the other, but there was really no way to pick a single one. Then it all came to me. I can try to make a phone call. I took out my cell phone and dialed the first number from my contact list. But instead of signal strength bars, the screen was showing a thick cross. Alright, there may be no signal in such a backwards country place. Though, I cannot be the only one who got here. Buses don't go on their own. I checked the bus from all sides to make sure that it wasn't a hallucination. Bits of dirt on the bottom, some rusty in there, faded out paint and worn out tires. No, this is definitely a very ordinary Icarus. Yeah, exactly the kind of bus which takes you to places beyond your understanding if you carelessly fall asleep. I gave a nervous chuckle. It came out by itself sporadically, because it wasn't the right place or time to laugh. But where on earth is the driver? I cautiously sat down on the curbstone beside the bus and started waiting. My patience didn't last long. My anxiety seemed to have reached the top when I started going slightly mad. In such situations, anyone would have probably felt something similar. Aliens and parallel universes were gone from my imagination, leaving only void and darkness. Is it how it will all end? How my life will end? What I wanted to do so much, so many things that I had no time for yet. I was taken over by the idea that was definitely the end. But why? It's not fair. Surely I'm worse than anyone. God, why? Tears were burning my eyes unbearably. I curled up and started rolling in the grass. Why? What did I do? Why me? But my outcries were only heard by speechless statues of pioneers and by a bird on a tree, which immediately flapped her wings and took off, having cried something in its own bird language, as if laughing at the idiot who dared to interrupt its after-dinner nap. At last, I was breathless with my weeping, and just laid quietly, sobbing from time to time. After a while, I managed to pull myself together. Mine cleared up a bit, as if terror and the fear of death gave me another break. All in all, if someone wanted to kill me, what is it all this for? Doesn't look like an experiment either. If this is some crazy coincidence, then it probably carries no threat. Anyway, for now, it seems there is no danger. The panic was soon gone. Of course, the blood was still pounding in my head, and my hands were still shaking, but at least I could think clearly now. Right now, there's nothing I can really change anyway. So no matter how much I think or get mad, it would only make things worse. There's no point making guesses until I get some facts straight. In any case, I won't learn anything by lounging about here. This camp, if of course it's really camp, looked like the only place where people could be, so I decided to walk there and hardly ever reached the gates when a girl came out from behind them, wearing pioneer uniform. My logic didn't let me down this time. Then again, pioneer uniform in the 21st century. And then again, girls here. I froze, unable to make a step. I felt very much like running away. Running as far away as I could from this place, far from this bus, skate statues, and far from this bloody bird with his siesta. Just run, free like a wind, fast and faster, waving to the planets passing by and winking to the galaxies. Run, becoming a pulsar ray and turning into bestial radiation. Run to face the unknown. Run no matter where, as long it is far away from this place. Meanwhile, the girl come close and smiled. I couldn't help but notice her beauty, even though I was trembling with fear. Human instincts work despite of consciousness, and while only 5% of the brain is responsible for cognitive processes, the remaining 95% are always busy sustaining life, and in particular ensuring stable functioning of the hormonal system. I desperately wanted to get less complicated and stop thinking in formal quotes from the encyclopedia, till my thoughts appeared one by one, being stupid, out of place, as if taken from an internal monologue of a hero, some chunky softcover crime fiction book. A pretty Slavic face, long braids looking at 2 armfuls of fresh hay, and blue eyes in which you could drown. Hi, you must have just arrived. Yeah. Alright then, welcome. She smiled broadly. Strange. It looked as if I had just a normal girl in front of me. I shouldn't have returned here. The woods and fields seemed better. But what shall I do next? Try to speak with her as if she was human, or run away, or whatever. The blood was pumping unbearably in my head, tearing it apart from the inside a little bit more, and the poor pioneer girl would be splattered with the hideous contents of my skull. What's funny about that? The girl gazed over me. It sent shivers down my spine and my knees started to tremble. Nothing. Great then. Great? What's great about that? Suddenly, I felt like letting it all be. The bus behind me. The winter yesterday and summer today. Take off the itchy pullover and just believe that it was all real. That it all was meant to be, and that it all, at last, was for the better. And you must probably know... You should go to our camp leader. She tell you everything. Look. You go straight ahead to the square, then turn left, and you'll see the small cabins. She pointed at the gates, as if I knew what was behind them. Well, you can ask someone where Olga Dmitrievna's cabin is. Got it? Of course, I didn't. And I gotta go. The girl waved a hand at me and disappeared behind the gates. It seemed as if for her I was something ordinary. And all this show of the bus and the travels and walking or sleeping were troubling only me, while here everything was just like it was supposed to be. Camp leader, pioneer uniform. Are they making a historical reconstruction here? I hope I wouldn't find Lenin stand in the top of an armored car at the square. But even that would not surprise me right now. After standing alone for a while, I headed into the camp. Mere 50 meters ahead, small one-story house has popped up on the left side. The billboard near the door said, "Clubs." I was about to come closer, when the door suddenly opened and a short girl wearing pioneer uniform came out. Her pretty face gave me an impression of burial torment for the fate of the whole mankind with truly universal sorrow. As soon as she saw me, the girl froze, as if frightened. I froze too, considering what was the best to do, to approach first or wait until she shows some initiative? Or maybe run away after all. Although this last option was constantly suggested only by my self-preservation instinct. At least that's what I like to believe. Not the worst human instinct, but one far from being the most logical. If this instinct played poker against deductive abilities, the result would be predetermined. And those deductive abilities, or at least a semblance, were hinting me that there was no need to be afraid of this girl. Suddenly, somebody jumped out of nearby bushes. A girl wearing a bright red t-shirt with USSR written on it. Such exact reproduction of the age. She looked quite short from the distance and was probably younger than the both pioneer girls at the gates and the girl at the door of the clubs. At last I decided to come closer, but the USSR, as I call him, a man, jumped to the first girl and started telling something while sewing in the air. The other girl, in turn, seemed confused, looked down and made no reply. I would have probably continued to observe the amusing dialogue, but the USSR suddenly pulled something out of her pocket and started shaking it in front of the first girl's face. This something turned out to be a grasshopper. Squealed the first girl. She must be not taken keen of insects, as she instantly rushed towards where Lenin presumably made a speech about the accomplished workers and peasants' revolution. That's to say, towards the square. The USSR glanced at me, grinned playfully, and dashed after her. Not a bad start of the day. I have absolutely no clue where I am, besides that there are some kids here role-playing pioneers, and as far as I can tell, this place is located thousands of kilometers away from my home. That might even be a different reality. And this was indeed a reality. I mean, everything around me seemed so real, if a little embellished, that I was starting to fall into thinking that in fact my previous life could have been just a dream. And what should I do now?